Hello, Julie here, and thank you for joining me here today. Now I have to apologise right off the bat. I have lost a bit of video here, and the actual construction of the pocket and the gilding of the pocket has disappeared. So I'm going to explain how I did that. So I'll explain the pocket creation as we go along, but at the moment I'm using this stencil that I got with a stamp from Nathalie Cowbraith. I think that's how you pronounce it. And I'm using my modelling paste to put through that stencil to make a bit of a pattern on the front of my pocket. Now, the pocket was made with a book page. I took a page out of a book, folded it in halves, so this pocket is actually double layer, just to give it some firmness. And then I folded the edges in to suit the size of my page. I think I might have trimmed a little bit off of the width, but not a great deal, because I wanted that fold, and I've folded at the bottom as well, so that I can, fit plenty of stuff into this pocket. Now here I'm just inking around the edge of some stamps that I've fussy cut out of a sheet of pattern paper. I think it's a Kaisercraft pattern paper. Now back to the pocket construction. Once I had made that pocket, and before I attached it, well, you can see I haven't attached it yet, but I have added gilding flakes, and to do that I've used my Duo transfer gel. I've put that on there, let it dry, and then rubbed my gilding flakes over the top. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just adding a little bit of my Distress ink. This is Victorian Velvet, it's a pink, and I'm going to colour a little piece of cheesecloth. So I'm just adding some water, mixing them together, and then dipping my cheesecloth into that. Now back to the pocket construction, I also added a piece of decorative paper, like patterned cardstock from a scrapbooking sheet, to the front of my pocket. I've only glued that down on 3 edges so that I can put something in that pocket as well, so it's really a double pocket. So now my cheesecloth is dry, and I'm going to add that first, and then I'm going to layer some of those stamps that I've inked around on top of that to embellish the front of the pocket. So just to recap on the pocket, I folded a piece of book paper in halves to create the pocket, then I cut a piece of pattern paper to a size to fit on the front as a second pocket, and then I added gilding flakes around the edge sporadically, not as a solid line, on both of those pieces. Then I stuck the pattern paper onto the front of the book page pocket. I hope I never lose any footage again, because it's really hard trying to explain what you've done previously while you're trying to also keep up with what you're doing at the moment. So I hope it hasn't been too confusing for you. If it has, just leave me a message in the comments and I'll certainly try and explain it a bit better. So now I'm going to use my art glitter glue around those 3 sides that I've folded up on that book paper to attach that to the page in my journal. So of course I'm going to attach it to the bottom section of the journal, but I'm going to try and keep it inside of the machine stitching around the journal page. So now I'm going to make some tags to go in my pockets. I've collaged some scraps of paper onto some white cardstock. Now I want to add some tea-dyed paper to the back of that cardstock so that it blends in with the rest of the journal. So I'm just using my art glitter glue to do that, and I'll do that for 3 pieces. I don't know how many tags I'm going to make. I think I'm going to make 2, but I always like to have a bit left over just in case I change my mind. Now I've got an old Jeans West card that I've cut the corners off of, and I use this to cut the angles on my tags. It's a great way to make sure that you get your angles the same, so your tag looks nice and balanced. So you cut one side off, then you flip your card over and cut the other side off. So I'll do that for both tags. You may notice on that loyalty card I've got a couple of different sized angles. So it just depends on the size of the card, which corner of that loyalty card I use to cut the tag. Now I'm going to take my distressing tool and just rough the edges of the tags up lightly. There's several different types of distressing tools around. This one is by Prima and it's discontinued, but there are lots of others around now that you can get. And you can also use the edge of your scissors, of course, if you haven't got one. So I'm going to do that to the edges of both tags, and then I'm going to ink around both sides, both the front and the back, I mean by that, with Vintage Photo. So now I'm going to embellish my tags. I'm going to use a couple of different laces. One's a sort of tanny coloured one and one's a cream colour. I'm going to run a little strip of each one of those along the left hand side of the tag, and then I'm going to add some more of those postage stamps. I've got a couple of those left over, and another little butterfly embellishment on the large tag. All of the embellishments have had the edges inked using the Vintage Photo Distress ink. Instead of adding some ribbon or lace or something to the top of my tags, I decided I wanted to do something a little different, and I want to add some, I don't know what you'd call them, whether you call them charms or dangles or what, but I'm going to use a couple of labels, plain square labels, and then a couple of smaller labels that I have covered with glossy accents and then put an eyelet in. And I have got a video showing that process, and I'll put that video in the description box below if you're interested in seeing how I did that. But I want to put a couple of, like one of each of those from the, hanging down from the hole in the tag. Now I am going to use some silver chain, and this silver chain turned out to be a little bit too snug, but I did manage to get away with it. I just squashed my lengths a little bit. So I'm using a jump ring, and I'm putting I've put a hole in the square label. The little one with the glossy accents already had a eyelet in it, and I've threaded my chain through. First of all, I thought I would loop it through the whole thing, but as I said, that chain's a bit too bulky to fit through the eyelet, so I had to change my plan of attack, and what I ended up doing was shortening the chain and just putting a jump ring on each end, putting the end of the chain through the eyelet hole before I put the jump ring on the back end. So I'm just having an eyelet at the back, chain coming through the eyelet that's in the tag, and then a jump ring that goes through the hole in the two labels at the front. So that was a bit of a trial and error thing. As I said, I had planned to run some chain through the whole thing, a double layer of chain, but that didn't work. But these worked out just fine anyway. You know, they look good. I'm happy with them. So yeah, that's what I did with those. So there we have our book page pocket and our collaged tags. As I said, there is a pocket in the front of that book page pocket, and I haven't put anything in there, but I will get around to it. I have still got some of that decoupage paper left over, so I might make a smaller tag to go in there. I hope you've enjoyed watching the video. If you have, don't forget to give me the thumbs up, always very helpful. And if you're not already a subscriber, I'd love it if you would subscribe to my channel. And for those that are subscribers, thank you for doing that. I really appreciate the fact that you come and watch my videos. It makes it worthwhile making them. So until next time, thank you for being here, and I hope you can join me for my next video. Okay, bye.